open the annual general electors meeting for January 2025. Welcome councillors and staff and members of the gallery, thank you, and anyone that should be watching online. Disclaimer, annual general meeting of electors of a district are to be held once every financial year. The purpose of this meeting is to accept the annual report and then to deal with general matters, including public questions and any notice of motions. Please ensure that you have been confirmed as an elector of the district prior to the commencement of this meeting, as only electors of the Shire of Harvey are allowed to participate in the meeting. Each elector is entitled to one vote on each matter to be decided, but does not have to vote. All decisions are to be made by a simple majority, and voting is to be conducted by a show of hands, ensuring that no voter's vote is secret. Only electors are entitled to move motions and vote at the meeting. Both the mover and seconder can speak for a maximum of 5 minutes, and both must state their name and address prior to moving or seconding a motion. Voting will only take place after a motion that has been moved and seconded and has been provided in writing to the administration in full. Should a notice of motion be carried, it's not to be taken as a notice of approval. All decisions made at the electors' meeting are to be considered at the next practical ordinary council meeting, where a formal decision of council will be made. Any questions asked and taken on notice will be provided within the next ordinary council meeting minutes. An audio and visual record will be made by means of live streaming of these proceedings and uploaded to the Shire's YouTube page for viewing. Acknowledgement of country. The Shire of Harvey acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land and their continuing connection to the lands, waters and community. We pay our respects to all members of the Aboriginal communities and their cultures, and to elders and emerging elders both past and present. Record of apologies. We have one apology from Councillor Capragrego. Confirmation of minutes. We have a recommendation here that the minutes of the 22-23 Annual General Electors meeting held on Tuesday the 27th of February 2024 as attached be confirmed as a true and correct record. Do I have a mover? Councillor Coleman. A seconder please. Councillor Bromham. Any discussion? I'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? 12 nil. Thank you. Receipt of the annual report. We have a recommendation here that the Shire of Harvey annual report for the year ending 30th of June 24 as printed be received. I'm happy to move that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Holly. And I will speak to this one, thank you. I'm pleased to move the annual report for financial year 23-24. This report outlines a year marked by significant progress following the COVID pandemic. Many key milestones dotted throughout the year include the official opening of the Harvey Skate Park, which was a project that was championed by youth, the continued efforts to enhance community safety with the implementation of the CCTV strategy. In the area of sporting facilities, the tender was awarded for the upgrading of the Brunswick Oval lighting. The expansion of the Harvey Senior Citizens, now known as the Harvey Connect, commenced. And we celebrated the commencement of the Brunswick River Cottages Stage 3 expansion, which will see another 12 units and a central community facility. The Yarloop Workshop and Interpretive Centre commenced construction. An enclosed exercise dog park was established at Fees Field in Australind. A mural arts project was delivered with murals at Christina Street, Australind, and on the Harvey Mile Up Road water tank. An information bay was installed at both Cookanup and Yarloop. The Harvey Arts Prize was a resounding success, featuring 54 artists and at least 211 pieces of artwork. Our Friendship City agreement with Mocha City saw its first official delegation visit our Shire, and that also included 70 students visiting our school. The revamped Harvey Region website incorporating Invest in Harvey Region and the Visit Harvey Region was launched, resulting in a 200% increase in website traffic. Our leisure facilities continue to provide vital sport and cultural events, with the HRCC hosting 23 cultural events, our libraries welcoming 64,954 visitors, and hosting 4,186 program sessions, which were attended by 20,994 people. The Shire continues to support community grant funding of $118,305 to 12 of our local organisations, whilst Alcoa and the Coastal Community Funds contributed $196,267 and $96,672 respectively to community initiatives. The Shire proudly celebrated individual and group achievements at the 2024 Community Award Night and honoured two new freemen of the Shire, Mr Peter Monagle OAM and Miss Tanya Jackson. And councillors and members of the gallery, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The Shire continued to provide numerous essential services which operate quietly in the background, with little fanfare or receipt of public recognition, such as maintenance and upkeep of our parks, playgrounds and open space, road maintenance, community health and safety programs, environmental conservation, and of course the daily front desk inquiries. And these services are being delivered in an environment where it's difficult to attract staff. We have a housing crisis, and the rising cost of materials and contractors' prices always impact upon them. And they're just a few of the impediments that we deal with as a council. So I wish to acknowledge our CEO, our directors, and all of the Shire of Harvey staff for their tireless efforts and commitment to ensuring our region continues to thrive in this difficult and challenging times. And also to our councillors for their ongoing commitment to the Shire and their role as leaders within our communities. So I'm very pleased to be able to move this report. Councillor Holly, did you wish to speak?
Well, certainly not going to beat that, but I'd probably just like to say that I joined the Shire to try and make a difference, like we all do, I'm sure. And I think the community has to start looking at the things that we're doing and trying to get done rather than the things that aren't being done. We must get the town moving and the Shire moving in a forward direction rather than worrying about what we haven't done yet. And I think we've got too many projects on the line to worry about, you know, what people aren't getting instead of the people that are getting what we are getting. And we're moving forward, whether you're in Australind, Yarloop, Brunswick or Harvey. We're moving forward, and it's not a bottomless pit, but the report there shows that it's a really good place to be in. So I reiterate what you said.
Thank you, Councillor Holly. Is there any more questions? Mrs Ferguson, please come forward if you have a question.
Thank you.
Yes.
I've been told that at council meetings I must ask each time for my questions to be recorded in the minutes as I ask them and not summarised as permitted by standing orders, and for background information I provide to be published in the minutes so the context and meaning of my questions is clear. I have asked this as in the past the meaning of my questions has sometimes been distorted or obscured. I'm not sure if I'm required to ask at this AGM, but I now make that request.
Thank you, Mrs Ferguson, and I will ensure that the intent of your question is captured in the minutes. Thank you.
Well, I would like them recorded as I ask them verbatim.
I will make sure, Mrs Ferguson,
Thank you.
that they are captured. Thank you.
Well, my request is that they be recorded as I ask them, as I always do. The Australind Community Precinct has been mentioned in the last 3 annual reports.
Point of order here. We've got a motion on the table.
Yes, Mrs Ferguson can ask a question in relation to the report, the annual report. As a councillor may have a question that can be asked. That is part of the annual report.
My question relates to the annual report.
Annual report, yes. Please. Yep.
I have other questions, but this one relates to the annual report.
report?
Yep.
Thank you.
The Australian Community Precinct has been mentioned in the last 3 annual reports, last year as a key priority project. The only mention in this annual report is $2.5 million in the borrowing and lease liabilities section. I was at a meeting of the Australian Leschenault Place Advisory Group in August 2024 when it was announced that Council had put the proposed new Australian Community Precinct on hold for the foreseeable future. I asked at that meeting and at a subsequent meeting that the community be informed. Community members of the Precinct Reference Group have recently been informed, and it is now on the Shire's Have Your Say page, but it has not been published in the 4 o'clock report, the Shire's online newsletter, or latest news page, nor through any social media. Reasons I have been given for this are, in my view, untenable. I have them here if anybody is interested. In the interests of transparency and in line with Council's, quote, promise to the community that you will keep us informed, which appears numerous times in every Council agenda and minutes, I believe it should have been. My question is, will the fact that the Australian Community Precinct has been put on hold indefinitely be included in the next annual report?
Leo, do you want to answer that one? Other than, I would suggest that that decision by council to put it on hold has been, as you said, put on Have Your Say, and the letters have been advised through, the members of the reference group have been advised through correspondence. Did you want to add anything else?
I would state that as the project is not in the corporate business plan for this coming financial year, nor is it in the budget, there is no requirement to report on the Australian Community Precinct for the upcoming annual report for 2024-2025.
Well, in my view, the Have Your Say page is where people go to have your say, their say. It's not where they go to see what happened about things that they've previously had their say on. And I don't know what the community is. The community has no idea. They're left to guess what is happening. I'm not querying the decision that it's been put on hold. I'm querying that I believe the community deserves to be informed, should be informed.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Ferguson. We'll take that on notice.
So my question was, will it be in the next annual report? So the answer is no?
No.
The answer is no.
Thank you. Alrighty, so do we have a speaker for the annual report? Against the annual report? Okay then, I shall put this to the vote. All those in favour? 10, 11, against? 0, 11, 0. Thank you. I'll move now on to the general business. Mrs. Ferguson, can I invite you back up again for your questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Harvey Shire's Friendship City Agreement with Mocha. Thank you for the comprehensive answer to my questions last November about payments to support the Friendship City Agreement with Mocha. Will you provide a similar report to Council on all future incoming and outgoing delegations as a matter of course, that is, without a question from the public being necessary?
Mrs. Ferguson, when the report comes to Council and Council makes that resolution, generally there is the costings for that outlined in the report to Council so that we can make that informed decision. So I don't know if you wish to add anything further to that, CEO?
No, we provided a response to your questions and that information was provided. Council is provided with updates through Concept Forum. The amounts are listed in the list of payments, and so it's all allocated towards the budget line for Friendship Cities. So we consider that information supports the council report if there was a future delegation.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't hear what you're saying terribly clearly, but my question isn't, it's about whether you report automatically on, it's a major event for the Shire, I would have thought, to have a visit to a Friendship City, and that I'm asking you if you will report on incoming, just a report after the event on a report similar to what I asked in November, or does the public have to ask every year if it wants to know what happened?
No, council will get a list of payments, and councillors can ask at any time if they request or require further information in regards to any payments being made. So we, at the concept forum, we will give a post report, if you like, on what activities we undertook if we're going, for example, to Mocha City, and the costings related to that particular event or any will be is available to councillors, and they can ask freely questions to staff.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the community being informed, not councillors. We can't go to the concept forums.
No, but you can come to any of the meetings, Mrs. Ferguson,
Not
and
the-
ask questions.
We can't come to concept forums.
No, but you can come to the agenda briefing or the ordinary council meeting.
So if we want to know about anything about the Japan visits, we have to ask a question at a council
If
meeting.
you have concerns, yes.
The total cost to Shire of Harvey ratepayers for the incoming visit by 7 delegates and a translator, which was for 2 nights, was $26,058 or $3,257 per head, which is a lot of money for a brief visit, and they paid for their own accommodation. Some figures relating to this visit taken from monthly payment statements have been brought to my attention. Catering for mocha dinner, $7,970, and wine for celebration dinner, $756, which amounts to $8,726. In addition to the 7 delegates and the translator, how many councillors, staff, and others attended the dinner?
We'll have to take that one on notice,
Okay.
Mrs. Ferguson.
If you're taking it on notice, could you please say how much per head it works out to be in the response?
Yes.
Thank you. The second one is 2 separate entries dated 29th of November read Mocha Event Harvey Lions Club 1,300 and Amana Inn Motel Harvey Accommodation Shire Staff 5,520. Were these items related? How many staff were accommodated at the motel? Why and for how long?
Mrs. Ferguson, I just wanted to check. I do have a similar question from Marion Lofthouse in regards to the Amana Inn accommodation, and I have not been against the creditor being able to find an amount of $5,520. So are you able to detail the list of payments or where those details came from?
That's the only entry that's the only information I have with me. I can't tell you any more information.
I'm not able to provide any response. 2023? 2024? Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you. I'll check back to that. Thank you, Mrs. Lofthouse.
Yeah.
I'll
We'll
pass
take that one
through
on
to-
notice,
yes.
Mrs.
Thank you.
Ferguson, and get back to you on that one.
Thank you. Incoming visits are not subject to council approval but are considered by the Shire President and CEO. In view of the fact that the incoming visit cost ratepayers more than the outgoing visit and that an unknown number of staff, councillors and others may take part, will council consider requiring that a budget for incoming visits be presented to council in the same way that a budget is required for outgoing visits? I'm not asking you to consider this request today, but at a council meeting in the near future.
Can I just seek clarification? Incoming visits, do you have an example of?
The incoming mocha visit, there's no budget. The budget, according to the policy, a budget for an outgoing visit has to go to council for approval, which is what happened. But the policy says that the budget for an incoming visit is...
I see where you're going. Yes, thank you, Mrs. Yep, we'll take that one as well. Thank you.
Well, my question is, will you consider my request at a council meeting in the near future that a budget be required for...
To review the policy?
Pardon?
To review the policy, Mrs. Ferguson.
Yes, so that a budget's required for incoming visits as well as outcoming visits.
Yes.
Thank you. The minutes of the council meeting in February 2024 state, quote, no further delegation visits anticipated until late 2025, unquote. If there is either an incoming or outgoing visit in 2025, there will have been 3 visits in 3 years. In view of the costs which are paid by ratepayers, will Council consider placing a limit on the number of incoming and outgoing visits? Now the initial visits have been made, I suggest 1 incoming or outgoing visit every 2 or 3 years would be more than adequate. Again, I'm not asking you to consider this request today, but at a council meeting in the near future.
Just one moment, thanks, Mrs. Ferguson. Mrs. Ferguson, would you like to make that request into a motion that council will then consider? Or are you happy for me to take that away and we'll discuss it with the CEO to look at reviewing the policy in relation to what the issues that you have raised?
I'm happy to move it as a motion.
Okay, we'll get some wording around that then. Have you got some wording around?
Well, I can read it from here, I think. In view of the costs which are paid by ratepayers...
Can we just do that slowly so our
Sorry.
record, our minute taker can...
Sorry. In view of the costs which are paid by ratepayers, will Council, at a meeting in the near future, consider placing a limit on the number of incoming and outgoing visits?
Just relating to, just seeking clarification in regards to our Friendship City with Mocha, or any visits in or out?
Well, I was only considering Mocha because we only
Mocha?
have one.
We
only have one
Yeah.
Friendship City
Friendship
arranged.
City, so I just wanted to
Yes,
tighten
no-
it up a bit so that we are
Yes,
just
happy
dealing
to
in
say with
regards-
Mocha, include
Yeah.
with Mocha in there.
You happy with that wording, Mrs. Ferguson? So I'll just read it. In view of the costs which are paid by ratepayers, would council at a meeting in the near future consider placing a limit on the number of incoming and outgoing visits with Mocha City?
Under the Friendship City Agreement. Entirely makes
Under
it
the
perfectly
Friendship
clear.
City Agreement. Okay, so you're moving that motion, Mrs. Ferguson.
Yes.
I'll ask now for a seconder. Do I have a seconder? Mrs. McGregor. So, Mrs. Ferguson, did you wish to speak further on this motion?
Well, only that I think, I'm sure there are benefits of friendships between cities, but a lot of them are very intangible. They're expensive. I think it was 20,000 was the budget for the outgoing, 26,000 was the cost of the incoming. That's a significant burden on ratepayers if it's to happen every year. I probably wouldn't have moved this motion if I hadn't noticed the wording that no further delegation visits are anticipated until late 2025, which implies to me there will be another one in late 2025, which is 3 in 3 years. I believe that's excessive. That's a lot of money.
Okay, Mrs. McGregor, as the seconder, did you wish to speak? No, thank you, Madam President. Okay, thank you. So it's just 2, then it's 2-0. Okay, then. So are there any speakers for this motion or against? All right, we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Keep your hands up, thank you. For and against? 1 against, carried. Thank you, Mrs. Ferguson.
Thank you. Australian Community Precinct. In the 2024-25 budget process, the Australian Community Precinct was put on hold for the foreseeable future. I was one of 2 or 3 community members who were informed of this at a Place Advisory Group meeting in August 24. I wrote to the Shire in October 2024 to ask how much had been spent on the project to date and what was included in the figure. Apart from an automatic reply, I didn't get a response, so I gave notice that I intended to ask the question at this meeting. APP was appointed in 2021 to develop a feasibility plan, and the following year they were appointed to develop a master plan and business case. There are amounts of $1 million, $1.5 million and $2.5 million mentioned in the borrowing section of budgets from 2020 to 2021 onwards, which is a total of $5 million. I don't have the resources or expertise to be able to work out how much was spent on what and whether money is still owing, but it's clear that a large amount of public money was spent on a project that is not going ahead. Would you please make public now how much was spent on the proposed new Australian Community Precinct, whether any money is still to be paid, what the payments were for, and what has been learned from the whole episode to ensure public money is not wasted like this again?
The total amount spent was $354,813 for the development of the Australian Community Precinct Master Plan and also the development of a business case. That was the question that was forwarded through to me in regards to what was learnt through this episode. As part of the planning for the precinct, it was a project that was being considered by Council at the time, and it was included in the Forward Capital Works Plan. Due to the number of competing projects and the construction market now being very different after COVID than when this project was first planned, Council prioritised the projects in the Forward Capital Works Plan, and as such this project has now been deprioritised. We still have the master plan and the business case that can be utilised for any future development for the Australian Community Precinct.
Thank you. Could you explain to me why there's still 2.5 million showing in the borrowings section?
There should be no funding for this project in the 2024-2025 budget. There has been $2 million that has been allocated towards an extension for the Australian Administration Office. So there's no further funding this year in the budget for the Australian Community Precinct.
I just don't know why it still appears in the borrowing section, but I don't understand financial statements. Attendance at this meeting by members of the public is affected by the start time and the fact that the majority of residents have a round trip of about an hour to attend. The only place I saw it advertised was in the 4 o'clock report, in a small box at the bottom of the page. It contained the bare minimum of information, didn't explain the purpose of the meeting or invite the public to attend, and in my opinion would not have encouraged people to attend. The information was posted on the Shire's latest news page, but not in the Shire's online newsletter. It may have been on social media. Next year, will you consider holding the annual general electors meeting at a time when members of the public are more likely to be able to attend, advertise it widely, explain its purpose, and invite the public to attend and to ask questions? I saw the following somewhere on the Shire's website and suggest it's a lot more inviting than this year's notice in the 4 o'clock report. It said, members of the public are encouraged to use this opportunity to ask questions about any issue relating to the business of the Shire.
Okay, I know that we did advertise this quite widely, and I did speak on the Harvey Community Radio that it was upcoming. So I find it difficult to accept that there was not enough communication going out to the community in relation to this meeting. In regards to the timing, it's difficult and it's a balancing act. If we hold it earlier in the day, then we're not going to capture those people that work, and we'll get complaints about that.
I realise it's a very difficult...
It is a difficult one, and I know that this is a bit later, so hopefully we could capture more people that that are working.
I'm delighted to hear you were on the radio about it. I'm primarily, partly referring to this little box here. It just gives the bare minimum, says that when the meeting is, where complex questions should be submitted today in bold, email your queries to, it's not an inviting statement.
We will take that on notice.
Thank you. Last one, community scorecard survey. I noticed recently in the local press that Dardanep is conducting a community scorecard survey next month. From memory last time, many, if not all, local governments conducted the survey at more or less the same time. Is Harvey going to conduct a survey, and if so, how will it be advertised? And will it be available in hard copy as well as online?
CEO?
We are commencing our consultation for our council plan, and can I ask the Manager of Marketing and Public Relations to detail our community consultation communications plan?
My question isn't about the consultation plan, it's about the community scorecard
Yes,
survey.
and
sorry.
Mrs. Ferguson, this is the detail about how the consultation will be undertaken and how it will be communicated to the public.
Thomas, do you want to come and join me as well? So we have a team working on this at the moment. We have Thomas is with the governance team, Brad Vitale is leading this, and also I have a member of my communications team that is solely dedicated to community consultation. We have about an 8-month communications plan in place. It'll include online surveys, there are workshops that also take place. We'll also have some pop-ups at the various shopping centres. There'll be one here in Harvey, one in Treendale, one in Australind. So we'll have a number of workshops as well. I am happy to share with you the entire communications plan, which is quite detailed. I really appreciate that. No problems, I'm happy to share that with you. Thanks, Thomas. Is there anything else that you can think of? Obviously on the website and all the rest of it as well, but yeah, we have a very comprehensive communications plan that I'm happy to share with everyone.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, does that mean the market survey that we did last time is not happening? Or I've heard you saying lots of things are happening, but is that specific thing happening or not?
It is pretty much the same thing, but it's being called a council plan process rather than a strategic plan.
So is this in-house? It's not an external survey, or is this just something that Harvey Shire have devised?
It's a survey for all local
She's getting
governments.
confused.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, just through the chair, it is the scorecard again, benchmarked on the
Mrs.
previous.
Ferguson, just so that it's clear, we are doing that, part of that council plan involves doing the market survey again. Okay?
And they will be available in hard copy.
Mrs. McGregor, do you have a question?
Only in relation to, it's more a comment, Madam Chairman.
Well, I'm into question time, but
It's in relation to, thank you, the comment that Mrs. Ferguson made about knowing about this public meeting, the AGM of the Shire. And not everybody listens to community radio. Not everybody is on social media. So there's got to be some other way of making sure that every Shire resident, ratepayer,
yeah, thank
something
you.
we could maybe look at for next year.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. McGregor. Okay, may I please invite Mrs. Lofthouse to come forward? And I know that you have a number of questions, Marion, so we will work through each one and do our best to respond to your questions. Welcome.
So do you want to answer them as I ask them or at the end?
No, we'll do one by one.
Okay. Marion Lofthouse, 284 Hope Avenue, Oakleigh, an elector. How much did staff and councillors spend on alcohol consumption this financial year where the alcohol was paid for by the Harvey Shire ratepayer? These costs are not transparent in the budget.
Mrs. Lofthouse, I just wanted to give a bit of a preamble because I know that you've got many questions that are coming forward. First of all, I wanted to explain that all of the expenditure that you are detailing is within the budgets that are approved by council. The expenditure is provided in the monthly financial reports which come to council, and then also the list of payments which council reviews, and obviously you have two. So as previously mentioned when you presented to council back in September, many of the items that you have asked were responded to then, but the list of payments that is provided and where some of the information that is informing your questions is convoluted in regards to the list of payments will detail a payment that's made to a creditor which can incorporate a number of invoices in that payment. So it will list the creditor name, and it will also give a brief description of the invoices that are included in that payment. But not all of that information can be provided, so there are many questions that will be coming up that without a reference number such as an EFT number, we're not actually able to provide the full details against those questions. And if you'd like to provide those through to us after the meeting, then we can research those and provide that further detail. So just giving that information first, I'll answer your first question. The Shire of Harvey, as with most local governments, is mindful of its responsibility around the consumption of alcohol. Alcohol, when purchased, is usually allocated to an event rather than one specific cost code. So that's why it's not transparent in the budget, because there is no actual cost code for alcohol. So it's usually included in invoices that include other amounts as well. And as such, it's very difficult to identify the full amount without going through all of the invoices that are allocated through in our finance system. The quantity and value, however, is considered minor. Staff have estimated the annual expenditure on alcohol relating to civic functions to be around $2,800, and staff estimate the expenditure on alcohol for the staff end-of-year Christmas and service award presentations to be around $3,500. This equates to approximately $22 per staff in attendance.
So we will never know. It gets hidden under, does it get hidden under kitchen needs, refreshments?
We don't hide amounts, it's how it's detailed in the invoices and how it's reported through as the descriptions go into our finance system. So without going back and identifying all of those account codes and getting the invoices out, it's very difficult to accurately provide a figure against the information that we're requesting.
Right. How much was spent on meals and accommodation for staff and councillors for this financial year that we're discussing in this AGM?
Yep, sure. We do again have a number of cost centres where we allocate staff training across a number of budget lines, but looking at accommodation and meals for training and conferences equates to around $35,365. Of that, some of that is Department of Transport training, which is for 1 week at a time, which is able to be recouped from the Department of Transport. And in regards to councillors, accommodation was $11,730 with conference and training food of $3,062.
That was for councillors, did you say?
Yes, correct.
Do you have a question, Councillor? Just one moment, thanks. Councillor Bromham?
Just a comment around, you might want to mention council training in relation to legislation that councillors have to be trained.
Yeah, there is a requirement, obviously, Mrs Lofthouse, that councillors do attend training. There's a certain number of courses that need to be conducted, and Welga generally does those in Perth. So there's a requirement for accommodation and the like for councillors to travel up to Perth and return. The courses generally start at 8:30 in the morning and finish about 16:30 or 4:30 in the afternoon.
So a lot of these accommodations at the Crown Resort, etc., are they one-day courses or two-day courses where they stay overnight, or it varies?
It could vary depending, and it could be for a conference as well. You know, we attend conferences, award presentations that Welga may invite us to. So there's a number of reasons why councillors would be requiring accommodation. Another one would be attending the Welga conference, which generally goes for 2 or 3 days, that we encourage councillors to attend as well.
Right. How much was spent on gifts and gift cards for staff and councillors which were paid by the ratepayer? Example, gifts of silk ties and scarves for councillors cost the ratepayer $4,020. Staff retirement gifts, farewell gifts and other multiple gift cards, all in the budgets, monthly reports, were given to staff. These varied in price, but some were more than $1,000 each, all paid by the ratepayers. These gifts are extra to the costs of $18.8 million in wages for staff and $303,000 in payments to councillors each year. May I point out here too that roughly 4,000 of our rates were spent on gifts for people in Japan, people Harvey ratepayers have never met or will ever meet.
Point of order, Madam President. The example given in this question, gifts of silk ties and scarves for councillors, is casting an aspersion on councillors and is not correct. Either it should be stricken from the record, as this is published, or removed altogether.
Yes, I do.
One moment, I'll take that point of order on notice. The CEO has a response for this, but I am concerned, as Councillor Carboni is, in relation to the silk ties and scarves for councillors. I'm unsure of that costing, but the CEO will respond.
In regards to the ties and scarves, which are not made of silk, they did cost $4,020, but there was 50 ties and 50 scarves. Not only have they been provided to the 11 councillors that we have here, but we also provide those as gifts, and we have a stock now remaining. In regards to the gift cards, the Shire does not provide gifts or gift cards to councillors. Staff received approximately $4,765 in gifts, which related to length of service awards or promotional items to assist in productivity and with the Shire brand. In regards to the service awards, these are awarded for increments of 5 years from 10 years service, so they equate to $10 a year for service to the Shire. In regards to retirement gifts, we had 2 long-serving employees with over 30 years of service. The Shire does not have gratuity gifts, and hence there was gift cards provided on their retirement as acknowledgement of their service. We also had a director who left employment who provided valuable service to the Shire as well, and he was farewelled and provided with gift cards.
Why every month do Harvey Shire ratepayers have to pay for unnecessary things such as these few examples? There are hundreds more unnecessary costs not mentioned here today due to limited time. Catering costs to farewell staff members, up to $1,000 to $2,000 of catering and drinks to farewell individual staff members who've left employment. All costs were charged to the ratepayer. At other Shire councils, the staff pay for their own outing to farewell a fellow staff member. Catering of other costs, catering and hire of venue for staff meeting, $2,209 paid by the ratepayer, $600 for a photo booth. I admit that is not in this budget, but as some of these costs go back 18 months, we actually have to wait another 12 months to mention the costs that have been paid out by ratepayers for the last 6 months. We have to wait another 12 months to ask questions about them. Staff Christmas party food, $2,465. Catering for a staff function, $1,070. Refreshments, staff kitchen, $2,074. Catering for meeting, $391. Another meeting costs $499 for catering. Refreshments, $995. Food platters for a council meeting, $1,594. Staff refreshments, $2,418. Council refreshments, $2,285. Another council refreshment last January, $1,506. Councillor function at Chelbury Park, $4,068. 4 sundowner parties where ratepayers paid all the costs. One sundowner cost $985 for food and extra for alcohol. Photos on Facebook show plenty of alcohol was consumed.
Is not on. I've got to make that point.
Okay, thank you.
It
Thank
is
you,
very,
Councillor
very
Holly.
frustrating that we're being picked on here because some of us aren't non-drinkers. So just be careful.
Yeah,
Let's put across.
I'm a non-drinker as well.
Just be careful.
Thank you, Councillor Holly, and we have all the details here that you have put through in regards to the costs. Now, you relate to a lot to the catering for councillors. Generally our meetings finish at 6 or 6:30 p.m. Today, for example, we started at midday. So a lot of these are for evening meals, which I would suggest that we would be entitled to at least an evening meal. Refreshments for staff functions and the like, for functions and the like, they are generally in acknowledgement of councillors that are leaving, that have served the Shire extremely well, and it's an acknowledgement of their service. All of these costings come through and council endorses them. So,
Yeah, Mrs. Lofthouse, as I've mentioned, when you go through the list of payments and there is a description, it doesn't include all of the invoices that relate to the payment. So unless I have the EFT number and a reference, I cannot validate any of these costs that you are putting through and are stating here, because it is not conceivable that a food platter for a council meeting would cost $1,500, just as an example. So if you can provide those details, we can provide the breakdown.
Right, so in future, if I want to speak up for the ratepayers, I will have to date everything.
Mrs. Lofthouse, I appreciate that you are speaking on behalf of the community, but in order for us to respond to these, and so we don't get those generalised statements, if you can provide specific EFT so that staff can respond to them directly and respond informatively to your inquiry, then you will get a better response. At the moment, some of these statements are very generalised, and some councillors are taking offence to them. So, but however, you are entitled to ask the question. We are just asking that you provide more details so that we can give a more informative response.
Well, some of these I've mentioned were on Facebook in photos, so they did happen.
I'm not questioning or denying that they did not happen. It's just the information provided to us so that we can give you a more informed response. Just one moment, Councillor. Mrs. Lofthouse, Councillor Crispin.
Just in respect to one of the questions about the monthly cost of fuel bills, just at the agenda briefing a week ago, I actually did ask the question about the fuel costing. However, it does not compute to that amount, but those type of questions are getting asked by councillors on a monthly basis. So we're looking through all the reports, we're looking through all the payments, and we are questioning these things. With respect to all the rest of the questions, I would love to see the actual EFTs or the dates of when these amounts were paid for transparency, so we could look back on those times and then we can have a clear understanding of what was happening during those times. Whereas how it's laid out like that, anyone's just going to read that as a previous month, or $60,000 for fuel bills as a previous month. So I just wanted to make note that fuel bills especially was something that I did question just last week, and these are questions that we do ask on the regular. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Crispin. I'll just go to Councillor Coleman.
Thanks, Madam President. Mrs Lofthouse, do you understand when we're talking about EFT, do you understand what we're talking about? Because when in the statements that you're probably referring to, in the left-hand column is an EFT followed by a number. That's actually the reference number that both the CEO and the President are referring to. That gives them a line item that they can look up directly and explain what that amount comes to. Now, because they're limited in an A4 page, and I have come across this myself, sometimes the description is hyphenated because you can't read the full thing in paper. However, once you provide that EFT number in relation to any query that you have in the finances, both the CEO and the President can actually answer your question in greater detail. So I hope that helps in the understanding, and when they're talking about needing more detail, it's the EFT reference number on the left-hand side of the page.
Well, I'm not really interested in that, but I just wanted to point out that ratepayers are paying for all these costs.
And Mrs Lofthouse, I would suggest that you are receiving a very good service from the Shire of Harvey staff as well. I just want to note that.
And we're ratepayers too.
Thank you, Councillor Holly. Okay, please continue.
Why do ratepayers have to pay for staff birthday gifts?
We've found one incident of a payment of $20 for a staff gift. The staff member who organised this payment will be advised that this is not an acceptable practice.
Why give $5,000 of Harvey Shire ratepayers money to an artist in residence in Bunbury?
Through the Chair, thank you. This funding was provided to enable residents of the Shire of Harvey to participate in the highly respected Artist in Residence program that is run by the Sterling Street Arts Centre in Bunbury. So it paid for those people to participate and also to connect with other artists in the region.
Well, I'll forget about the... I spoke at a Shire meeting in September about the Shire wasting of money.
Mrs Lofthouse, would you like to take a break, Mrs Lofthouse, and I can come back to you? We've got another resident who has some questions. Would you like to take a break and we can come back to your questions?
I might be right. I asked back in September to reduce wasteful spending. Oh, that's all right. A few weeks later, the ratepayers had to pay $1,100 to have a coffee van go to the Harvey Shire offices to provide barista-made coffees for all Harvey Shire staff. I don't really think this is fair on ratepayers. Did the ratepayers who paid for this benefit in any way from this?
I can answer that one. Funding for this Safety Month initiative was provided by the Shire's insurer LGIS.
February 24, 11 months ago, a new colour bond fence was put up around the old Harvey radio station in Young Street. It was already drawn up in a plan the old building would be demolished, and yet you spend $5,247 on a new colour-bond fence, which will soon have to be removed when they demolish the old building. That money could have paid for an air conditioner in the town hall, but instead the new fence will soon be carted to the tip. Other questions or ways of reducing costs to ratepayers. Independent living units in Brunswick have cost a few $1 million. How much is paid by ratepayers? How many people live in these units? How many people living in these units have lived all their life in Brunswick?
All right, Mrs Lofthouse, you've just skipped a question there. So the first one was in regards to the fence.
Yes.
Well, okay, we'll...
Through you, Madam President, I can answer that. Staff have investigated that claim about the fence, and the current fence that's there, we believe, has been there at least since 2013, and no staff are aware that we've spoken to that there was any talk of upgrades of that. So I'm not sure where that statement has come from, but...
It's in your budget.
Well, the current fence that's currently around the radio station's been there since at least 2013.
Oh, well, I'm not sure what fence we paid for then. It definitely said it was for the old Harvey radio station.
So you're up to the...
Yes, so basically, do any of those 33 units pay Shire rates? Are they Brunswick people, or are they people from Perth that have come to live there? Are we Shire ratepayers paying out money to house Perth people is basically what I'm asking you.
This project, the Brunswick River Cottages, has been very successful and oversubscribed, and it assists in meeting the accommodation needs of the ageing population and people experiencing housing difficulties. The personal circumstances of residents who live in those units is confidential. However, the Brunswick River Cottages selects residents for occupation of the units, and a connection to Brunswick and the Shire is a consideration.
Do any of the units pay Shire rates?
No, they do not.
Special area rates add up to $762,000 per year, but the landscaping in Treendale, Kingston, Galwell Green and Lakewood Shores cost at least $1.3 million each year. Why should ratepayers in other areas have to pay out more than $500,000 each year to cover the excessive landscaping costs in these four areas?
I might answer that one. Thank you. So the Shire provides maintenance of the public open spaces in all of its town sites. Those town sites or subdivisions that demand a higher level of maintenance, we charge an additional rate for that higher level. So there is a disparity between the cost and what we charge by the specified area rate, but that's a similar cost that the other areas are already paying for maintenance of theirs, so it works out fair.
In the budget, but it may not be 11,000, it was meant to be 10,000, was given to 10 ratepayers in a lottery draw as incentive to pay rates. That is an extra $11,000 burden that the rest of us have to pay. Reduce the Shire costs by $11,000 or use it to benefit everyone. Instead of doing something useful with this $11,000, you gave it to 10 people. 3 who already claim half their rates back from us, the taxpayer. So we have to pay their Shire rates as well as their claim back from the taxpayer.
So Council adopted the incentive scheme for payment of rates to encourage prompt payment of shire rates. Council will be reviewing whether it continues to do that or not at the next budget deliberations.
Now, I see only about 70-something% paid. That 11,000 could have updated the Harvey Town Hall. You have 2 antique fairs booked for the Town Hall in February and March, up to 70 stalls each antique fair, where people come from far and wide to show or view. Ready-made tourists on the spot. But you put them in a hall for 3 days on what could be 40-degree days with no air conditioner, no fans, and no ladder to open windows. Do you think these people will come back to Harvey? Are there any plans to improve the town hall?
The question is, are there any plans to improve the town hall? I can't respond as to whether they will return to Harvey or not.
No, all I can state is that they have made a decision to hire the town hall, knowing what the conditions are and that there is no air conditioning currently in there. In regards to plans to improve the town hall, I'm not aware of anything besides the remedial repairs that we're currently making to the building.
Right, well, there's plenty of other costs here, but I fear that I won't get a response. More than 46,000.
I would suggest that you are getting a response to your questions.
More than 46,000 of ratepayers' money for staff and councillors to travel to Japan and for mock Japanese delegates to come here. It was of no benefit to 99% of your ratepayers. That money could have been spent on something more useful for local ratepayers. But another member of the public has spoken about this already. 61,000 to hold and cater for advisory group meetings where ratepayers were not informed of what happened at these meetings. Another 61,000 to pay legal fees for rate debt collection. If rates were reduced and people could afford them, the Shire could save money in legal fees. How many properties were sold from under the owner this financial year because they did not pay their Shire rates? Why should these property owners have to pay all the above-mentioned bills when most of it is unnecessary expenses and of no benefit to them or any other ratepayer?
Councillor, just one moment, Mrs Lofthouse. Councillor Dickinson.
I appreciate that Mrs Lofthouse is asking these questions, but I believe that she has already asked some of these questions at a previous council meeting, so I'm wondering if it's appropriate that they get asked again when she has probably already been provided with the answers to some of these questions.
All right, moving on. Why do Shire of Harvey...
Mrs Lofthouse, you've asked a number of questions that we haven't responded. So, did you want a response in regards to the advisory group meetings?
Well, I believe most of them are finishing up anyway.
Are you able to respond to that, Susan? Thank you.
Thank you. So after a comprehensive review of all the advisory group system of community engagement, Council determined to disband several of the groups, in part due to the resource cost, but also because of the introduction of a range of other community engagement tools that are available to the community to provide input and feedback to the Shire.
Right. Why do Shire of Harvey support Peel Harvey Biosecurity Group? Shire of Harvey do not pay any pest rates. Peel Harvey Biosecurity Group are useless and do nothing about declared weeds despite numerous reports sent to them. Private landowners are enforced to pay a pest rate, otherwise they suffer threats of legal action, threats of bad debt put on their properties, or have money extracted after the sale of their property. Yet this Shire took pest rate money, which was enforced out of landowners, and used it on Shire land. Peel Harvey Biosecurity Group claim this will be ongoing, where each year they will give $150,000 of landowners' money to the local Shire councils. Neither PHBG or Shire of Harvey have informed the landowners.
Thank you, Mrs. Lofthouse. I'll go through to Mr. Hall.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. So the Peel Harvey Biosecurity Group is a non-for-profit organisation that's dedicated to eradicating and reducing the impact from declared pests, both plants and animals. And I'm not in a position to, I don't really want to comment on how they function. In terms of a day-to-day entity, we have heard from them. They have presented to us previously, and some of the work that they are doing is exceptionally good. They do have the status of a recognised biosecurity group under the BAM Act, which gives them access to monies that are actually able to be raised by the Department of Treasury. I'm also not going to comment on the fact of those landowners that refuse to pay and how that is recouped. I will, though, however, like to say that the Shire of Harvey initially did not support the introduction of the declared pest rate. We did so because of the fact that it was actually seen by all of us as being a cost shifting from state government to private landowners for properties of 1 hectare and above. There was also concerns that monies raised through this pest rate would actually be just absorbed in the administrative functions of that particular group and not spent on the ground. There was also a significant amount of lack of community engagement and lack of consideration of other funding models. So we did have concern with it and it was raised with state government. However, it was actually introduced and Treasury, not Council, actually collect the monies. There have been some recent initiatives as far as on-ground works of which the Shire has benefited from monies that have been raised through this pest local rate, and that money isn't actually administered by us. And I'll use an example of a $30,000 payment or allocation of this money that's not spent was offered to the Shire, and that's been used for the eradication of arum lily in Australian reserves, and it needs to be spent within the area within which it is collected. So just reaffirming, there is recent engagement with that organisation. There's been a $30,000 payment. 20,000 of that has already been spent, and the remaining 10,000 again is not actually received by the Shire. It is money that we identify other entities, other organisations, government agencies that do on-ground work, and the Peel Harvey Biosecurity Group engage specifically with them. So to suggest that the Shire is a recipient of this money and spend it, no, we engage with that group and they spend money that they are allowed to collect through Treasury.
But do you support them to keep extracting money from landowners under threats of legal action? And
No, Mrs. Lofthouse, we do not do that, and I think Mr. Hall's given quite a good response to your question, and I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Right. The Shire Council want to construct a $2.1 million bike trail out in the bush on land the Shire does not own. Who will own the bike trail after ratepayers pay all the costs that will go into the project?
Mr. Hall, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Ms Lofthouse, so the project being referred to is actually a spur line off the Mundabiddy from Lake Brockman into town and then back out to Yarry Hut. So that land is predominantly state-owned land under the care and control of DBCA, and we do have Shire reserves in there as well. So the trail, like the entire Mundabiddy, will actually sit on top of Crown land. And prior to entering into any agreement to build this spur, there will be an MOU. There's draft MOUs at the moment between all parties in terms of how the construction costs will be allocated and how maintenance going forward will occur. At present, we understand the designs will cost in the order of about $2.5 million. And we have an election promise at the moment for $1 million of that. As part of that funding agreement, there is another entity involved in this, which is private industry, being Alcoa, as they have mining leases over that particular parcel or that whole area. So going forward, there is unlikely to be anything above the 1 million from the state. We'll try and get it, but we are engaging with private industry, specifically Alcoa, to cover some of those upfront infrastructure costs and ongoing maintenance costs. So management of it will be under a strict MOU, like the rest of the Mundabiddi.
Are people aware that Harvey Shire ratepayers pay the WA Electoral Commission $111,000 for each Shire election held to vote in councillors? Could councillors please consider saving us $111,000 from this list of unnecessary costs and from future unnecessary expenses to at least cover the cost of voting in councillors?
I can answer that one. Mrs Lofthouse, the requirement to hold local government elections is legislated in the Local Government Act, with elections to be held every 2 years. The WA Electoral Commission is the lead state agency for electoral services in Western Australia and plays a key role in the local government elections. Ahead of a local government election, each local council will determine whether the election will be held in person or by postal voting. And if it's held by postal voting, the WAEC must conduct the election on behalf of the local government. Costs are provided to the local government on a cost recovery basis.
Question, Councillor Boyland?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I'm just looking ahead, and question 10 is not a question, it's a statement.
Question 10. Yeah.
Which one's that? I haven't got them numbered.
About the community awards night, Mrs Lofthouse.
Oh, I've skipped over that.
Do you want that question removed? We'll remove that question then, if you're not going to ask that question.
Well,
It's not a question.
I didn't know.
Well, it's a statement, is it?
I didn't know it was even printed anywhere, so.
Okay.
You did provide it to us.
It was provided to us, so therefore.
Yeah, so
we
you
put it
could
there.
give me answers, but I didn't know.
Well, it's a statement actually, and not a question as such.
Yes, you can remove it.
Thank you. So we're up to question.
I don't have these ones numbered. I have not been given whatever you've been given. The Shire put in reports that the rates went up 7%. Your councillors passed it that they went up 7%, but our rates went up more than 10%. You must have the figures there. An increase of $1,894 for 1 year was a rise of 10.36%. And my last question, how will the Shire of Harvey Council reduce their wasteful spending in 2025 and future years?
First of all, I will provide some commentary in regards to your rates. Although I won't discuss your personal financial situation, I've had staff review the rating relating to your property, and I confirm that the total rates for your properties increased by 6.3% between 2023, 24 and 24-25 financial year. So if you require any further information, please get in contact with the rates team to confirm those amounts.
Mrs Lofthouse, I do take offence once again to the statement about wasteful spending. Council and councillors spend an inordinate amount of time, and staff, reviewing budgets and making their decisions about how we spend the money. And the intention, that's why we are here, the intention is to serve the Shire, improve the infrastructure, improve the services. and we are working in a very difficult environment. So I do take offence in regards to your aspersions that we are spending the ratepayers' money wastefully. We are not.
So, in your eyes, ratepayers are quite happy.
I'm not going to speak on behalf of all ratepayers, Mrs Lofthouse. You're obviously doing that here this evening on behalf of the community, but I would suggest that we are doing a fairly good job within the Shire of Harvey.
I've heard other ratepayers say they don't like to come to the meeting to speak up because they feel intimidated by coming here. Out of 21,258 electors in the Shire of Harvey, we have 4 people here.
Mrs Lofthouse, I can recall when I first came on council that we didn't have anyone come to our meetings. In actual fact, these AGMs were covered in about 5 minutes. So I'm very encouraged that we get people here. Our last annual meeting, the gallery was full. So I'm really pleased to see that we actually have some community members here, and there'll be people viewing online. And I'm disappointed by your statement that you feel, or the community feels, that they are not comfortable enough to come and speak to council. If they don't want to come and speak to us in this environment, they are more than welcome to reach out to any councillors. All our contact details are on Facebook, and you're more than welcome to give us a phone call or send us an email. You don't necessarily have to come into the chambers to present your case or your concerns with councillors.
Right, thank you for answering the questions.
Thank you, Mrs Lofthouse, and I hope you realise that a lot of effort and time was put in by staff to respond to all your questions. So I thank staff for their time and effort. Mrs Ferguson, I will come back to you. I know that I've got Mr Booth waiting he's got some questions, and then I'll come back. Mr Booth?
I've got a few, so I'm happy if you want
No, I'll ask you to step up, please, Mr Booth.
It's my first time. Thanks very much for having me. I can guarantee it won't be the last one. So I spend a lot of time on Harvey Community Radio talking about all the wonderful things that the Shire does, and I believe them wholeheartedly. But there are a few things that that I do wonder about on occasions. I've got a few questions, so I'll try to keep them as brief as possible. Our vision statement, I'd just like to ask the CEO and the Chair, the 2 leaders in the room, what does it actually mean to you and how does it guide you? And do you think that it is actually the most appropriate statement for us?
The vision statements have been developed through community consultation, and our strategic community plan and our corporate business plan all follow through that as they come through to the actions that guide the work of council and also our staff members. So yes, I do believe that through consultation, and we did undertake the market scorecard 4 years ago and are undertaking that again so that we can get the community's views to ensure that the Shire's vision through our strategic direction is appropriately enacted.
Okay, so my question was, how does it guide you and is it best fitting? What is the statement then? What's our vision statement?
Together towards an even better lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I do believe, as I've stated through the consultation process and our strategic plans, that all of the actions that we undertake are developed in line with that strategic vision and the goals that have been established through the community consultation.
Okay. And Michelle? Sorry.
Same. And, you know, as the CEO said, we've got another market review coming up and another opportunity for the community to, through the consultation process, and it may bubble to the surface that the community does not think that that's the right vision for the Shire. But at this time and space, that's what we believe in, and that's what we're working towards.
Yep, the guiding light. The information bay, the information bays, I've only seen one of the information bays up in the car park of that's new. Is that actually complete now?
I believe so. Mr. Hall, is there anything else, or Mr. Faber?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, that's the design that's been finalised, and yes, that project is complete.
I believe the rubbish bins are going to be removed, if that's a concern, but...
Okay, I was just wondering, it's like, I don't know, 10,000 cars or so drove past that today or over the last few days. I just can't see how that has been a benefit at all to the town, because it's so far off the road. There's nothing to say that there is an information bay. You have to actually get out of your car to be able to read anything. So if it was winter or whatever, I'm just wondering what the idea of it was, because I've been putting a few things on Facebook lately, and the feedback that I've got, or that came across on the notice board, was that many of the business owners would like a big sort of sign saying shops, hairdressers, bakery, come into town sort of stuff. And that, which I'm sure was very, very costly, I don't know whether it actually achieves what it was after, or what the town of Harvey was after having that.
I believe, and I'll hand over to Mr. Hall, but I do believe that the Information Bay project was instigated by the Harvey Main Street many years ago. So it has been in the pipeline for some time. I'll hand over to Mr. Hall in saying that that was the site, I believe, that they...
That was the preferred site.
Preferred site.
Yeah. But an information bay, as you're going along, you go, oh, beauty, there's Fergus, and I'll just pull into the information bay and, sit next to your husband.
I understand the question. I'll ask. I'll go through to Mr. Hall.
Look, if there is a suggestion that, we need to put a little information bay sign there, we're happy to have a look at that. But it is one of quite a number of initiatives to get people off the highway into the main street, and we have been engaging and discussing having some further signage up on that intersection to direct to the town centre, to shops and things as well. So it's only one of a number of initiatives that we're sort of rolling out to bring people off the highway and into town. So yeah, thanks for your
Because it just seems funny, it just seems like that would be the same project, not a separate thing then needed to get...
Well, so unfortunately, we actually, as we were talking, you can see before, there's quite a number of different funding sources and projects that we get. So we're not always able to actually deliver everything all at once. We do have a number of Shire projects, so we share the budget around, and in this case, we're able to deliver this particular project with the funds that we do, and we'll continue on with some other signage and stuff as we go forward. But delivering everything all at once would be lovely at some point, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose delivering it just once and doing it would have been better than having a couple of projects. But anyway, Christmas lights is my next question. Being on the radio, I get out and talk to people, and they notice me and they ask me questions as if I'm some kind of expert about what's going on in town. But what's the go with the Christmas lights? Because I've been in town for 3 years. We had at Snells Park, we had the nice string of colourful lights up there, so we had a big Christmas tree. Last year or year before, they weren't there. It just suddenly disappeared, and I heard through people working at the council that it was because the flecks had been eaten or something by the birds. But there was nothing, absolute crickets from you guys coming back about what's actually happening with it. And I had a new to town couple that only moved in 3 months ago. And they said that one of the things the wife was so excited about was just the good, fun, country town stuff like Christmas, and you can get all the, get excited about it. And there was nothing, absolutely nothing. And then this year, so then last year, or the year before last, we had, Snells, and then it disappeared. And then this year, it looked as if we'd spent about $60 at Bunnings on our main street. So what's the story with that, and why wasn't it ever communicated? Why don't we ever talk about the things that we stuff up? Why is it
I take offence to that terminology, Mr.
Sorry.
Booth, about...
Why is it that we don't talk about the things that we're having difficulties with?
You're more than welcome to come and ask the question, but I'll hand over to Mr. Faber, who will give a brief update as to why there was the issue with the the Christmas lights? Thanks, Mr. Farr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you are correct. We did have some lights at Snells Park. Unfortunately, the cockies had done a lot of damage, and those lights had gotten to the point where they weren't able to be repaired safely anymore. And it was determined at that time that that was probably not a continuing way to provide those lights because they would continue to do that damage. So this year we did actually buy a Christmas tree which was delivered but found to be not suitable and actually unsafe when it was delivered. So it was returned this year back to the manufacturer. Not putting any dispersions on where it came from, but it came from a foreign country and the electrical side of it wasn't up to Australian standards. So our electrician, when he found or pointed that out to us, we were in a position where we couldn't put them up. We did actually have 3 pole lights that were going to be part of the overall Christmas tree plus pole lights, and they were put up on the 3 poles, one just out here as we go up the road. When you say they were $20 from Bunnings, they were quite significantly more expensive than that. So we do have those 3 solar lights, and going forward we are looking to purchase another tree for next year, but unfortunately the one we received this year just wasn't safe to put up.
So the extent of the lights that we had were those 3 installations along the main?
That's correct. After we had to give the Christmas tree back, that was all we had left for this year. And unfortunately, to get the lights and trees, we need to pre-order them quite a way in advance to get them through the companies that we purchase them through. So at that stage, we had no other option but just to use those 3 pole lights.
Okay. So I suppose it's disappointing that that isn't actually expressed to the folk. There's no lights, and there's no lights again. So you had intention of doing it, but there's just nothing that comes to us as far as what's going on and why and how. Okay, next one. I put up a post on the Harvey notice board about the pool. I said, use it or lose it, and lots of people came out and said, well, yeah, there's just no shade. And I got on there defending it, saying, of course there's shade, there's beautiful shade, there's barbecues. I was saying barbecues, I didn't realise there was only one barbecue. Barbecues, but a lot of people are talking that they would actually use the pool a lot more if there was some sort of shade, which could be very, very simply and cheaply put up over the pool, just to give us a bit of sun protection for the kids in the pool. I don't know whether that is something that I can suggest that you guys look at.
Did you say pool or the hall?
Pool, swimming pool, the Dr. Peter Topham Memorial Pool. Is that anything like, I know that there was mention a couple of years ago about the pool ending up being over at the rec centre, being an indoor pool. I'd hate to see that. I'd hate for us to lose such a beautiful facility that we have with all the grassland and the trees and the
I'll just get Mr. Faber just to respond in regards to the shade.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the moment, there is nothing that we've got for consideration for that, but it's something that we could look at if that was, I guess, the intent of the community to have something like that. It would probably have to be done with shade sails. They would have to be fairly significant in size.
I think
the cost would be probably quite significant in itself.
Okay.
Yep.
Maybe is that community consultation thing? I don't know. But is that something that?
Well, it's something we could definitely look at.
Yeah.
And like I said, it would need to be, because they'd need to be engineered, the poles, because of such a big wide span. But it's definitely something that we could look at if that was something the community was seeking.
I used to work for a shade cloth place, and we did it over the Fremantle pool in Freo, and just basically strung 2 wires, and it just pulled straight across. You know, just temporary, and you could pull it back and stuff like that. But yep, all right. I live in Harvey Street, just opposite the pub. And halfway down Harvey Street, there are 2 huge, square, new 2-storey, half-built homes that have basically been in that condition for quite a while now. This is the second time I've been to a council meeting. The first time I was stopped at the door, rather than you stay for the council meeting, can we just deal with something now? Is what happened, and the fellow that was in charge of signing off on the building licences and that came out and spoke to me. I said, we were worried on our street because the one at the back, I'm sure you're all familiar with this. Are you familiar with the Harvey Street buildings? Yeah, yeah. The one at the back had been built and there was an empty block at the front. And I came to the council meeting and said, I just want to make sure that we aren't going to get a two-storey thing, because the old lady that was living there, which would be in the shadow now, and I was told, yes, don't worry, there's going to be a red board put up, and you can say any objections or whatever to having a two-storey home. Didn't happen. Just suddenly this two-storey home got built in there. So I'd like to understand how that happened and what is happening with these buildings they don't seem to have been built or had any workers on them for at least what seems to be the last year, maybe 9 months or so. But they're just nice all in the street.
Okay, Mr Hall, are you able
Yeah,
to
through my
respond?
chair.
Sorry, totally out of character. All the little cottages, our whole street, cottage,
yeah.
and then these two big square monstrosities.
Mr Hall?
Yeah, Madam Chair, there's no provision that precludes the ability to approve anything, and there's nothing there that actually triggers a requirement for referral. Those ones that are unfinished, those builders aren't actually an active company anymore, and we are actually pursuing we've got a number of options. We can either get them removed or we can get them finished, but getting hold of the people is quite a difficult exercise at the moment.
So what does that mean, though?
It means exactly that. We're trying to pursue an outcome that is an appropriate outcome and one that we can enforce.
So would there be any sort of time frames on that if you can't get hold of anyone for the next year or two? Or
If I can't get hold of anyone at the moment, I can't give you a time frame. I'm not being smart. I'm just saying that that's the case.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Neither am I. Good.
No.
We're on the same page. Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor, one moment, thanks Mr Booth. Councillor Boyland?
Ask a question. So are we able to restrict a person from building a two-storey property within the building code on their own personal land?
No.
So therefore we don't have a great deal of control over the fact that a two-storey home is being built on that land. Is that correct?
Correct.
And nobody was asked regarding their opinions with the neighbours, because it's the personal landowner's right to be able to build that home without consulting with the neighbours?
On one of them there was, Councillor, yes, there was a requirement to refer it because there were some overlooking issues, and those overlooking issues were resolved through the design mechanisms of changing the position and height of windows. So if there is a trigger that requires the need for it to be referred to an adjoining neighbour because it doesn't comply with the design provisions of the ARCOs, we have the ability to refer it out.
So that issue was resolved?
It was.
Correct. Thank you.
Mr Booth?
Behind Jenny's, between the radio station and Jenny's, behind Kev's Meats, there's a car park there. And yesterday morning, watched all the trees get removed out of that car park. So I'm not sure, it just becomes a very big, there was 2 large trees and then many small bushes, just sort of, that people would park their cars under in that car park and that. So it's now just become a big heat sink out the back. It's only absolutely fresh. I don't know whether there is any...
It looks like staff might have to take that one on notice. I'm a bit unsure.
Are there rules about people removing trees in...
Through you, Madam Chair. So if they're native vegetation and it's an action that triggers the need for a clearing permit, yes, they do. But on land that's generally zoned commercial or residential, there is no ability to actually preclude someone from actually removing their trees unless they are actually a declared, so if it's a tuart tree, but even then a tuart tree, an isolated tuart tree in town wouldn't have the protection under the federal legislation. So the ability for us to actually stop people from clearing trees on their own residential or commercial block is very, very limited. And I will definitely need to take the one on notice. I'm just looking at aerial photography now, trying to find out who owns the block. Actually, I think I know it.
They'll follow that up, Mr.
IGA, I think, super IGA. That's what I was told. Okay. Meet the councillors meetings. We had one, or the last one was at the CRC here in Harvey. It was attended by quite a few people, and the President and the Deputy President came, and that was the last one that we've had. You put out something on Facebook the other day saying, how would you like to be told, or how would you like to be contacted by the residents? Meet the councillors' meetings. I know that Marion Lofthouse, straight on there. Not if you're going to spend a lot of money. Isn't that right? So it can be done very, very cheaply. But these Meet the Councillors meetings are great because they're face-to-face and you can actually ask things. And this is, you know, it doesn't intimidate me coming here, but it would intimidate a lot of people coming here. But it does give that... that ability for people just to maybe even just sit there and listen and watch and hear occasionally or ask questions themselves. So I want to know why they were stopped.
They were a initiative by the CRC, Harvey CRC, and there was a initial agreement that councillors would be invited to their first sundowner. They called it Meet the Councillors, and it was determined then that maybe that was a difficult situation for all councillors to attend, and it was then decided that there were a number of other mechanisms that the community could contact councillors, and they were, the CRC decided not to run any more sundowners for councillors.
Is it something that you could initiate again? Because they were...
Listen, it really depends on what councillors wish to do. That was in that particular circumstance, the invitation was made to all councillors and 2 turned up.
Late.
Pardon?
Late. So you were about 8 minutes late on the day.
8 minutes late. Well,
It's
there you
okay.
go. That's
It's
not
okay.
bad.
It's okay.
That's not bad
But
coming
that
from
also...
Australian,
but
Mr.
that
Booth. But
also...
I acknowledge where you're going with this one, and I know that you see that there. It's a great mechanism for the community to contact and speak to councillors face to face, but there are lots of other mechanisms as well for the community to come and speak to councillors.
And they are...
Mr. Booth, you can email us. You can ring up and request a meeting with councillors or a specific councillor.
Okay, but not organised
No.
sessions. Okay.
Councillor Boyland.
Excuse me, President. I'd also like to say that we do work for a living. Some of us have quite busy jobs and are required to travel and all sorts of things, and we also run family and commit to the community, which is a great passion. So unfortunately, whilst this meeting time is good for you and good for us tonight, there's other times that don't always adequately suit everybody. But my personal details and personal phone number, not a council phone or a public phone that I use simply for council work, but my personal number and email address is on the website, along with every other councillors here, and we are all very welcome for the public to reach out to us and connect with us and share any community concerns that they would like us to advocate for, and they do that. So, as the President also mentioned, that event was at the request of the CRC, so it wasn't a Shire event.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Bromwell.
Sorry, what was that?
Start time. There's no start time. We're invited to come.
Okay. We knew it. Harvey Community Radio, I'm on 3 mornings a week, Mondays, Thursdays and Fridays from 7:30 through till 10 o'clock. I try to get as many local voices on the radio as I possibly can. I know that the President does a radio gig with David each week, David Marshall, running through the things, but it's not an opportunity for people to ask questions. So I would like to invite, again, I have invited, there's a few councillors here that have been on the show with me, mainly this side of the fence actually, so I'd like to invite anybody else that hasn't been on or anybody that would like to come on and have a chat to me and accept some text questions from the public on the show. So I know that I have asked a deputy to come on, and the answer was no way because your questions are too curly. But I guarantee you You did say that, mate. You absolutely did say that to
Anyway,
me.
I'd say, Mr. Booth,
Absolutely.
that you...
So I would like to just extend that invitation. I would like to see a regular thing where people are coming on so the public can ask, because I've been living here for 3 years, and word on the street is that the communication from the council is not good.
I must say, Mr. Booth, that it has to work both ways, so...
We'll communicate. That's why. That's why. Let's get together and let's talk. You know, Donald Trump
I'm saying that in regards to the community reaching out to particular, to councillors through, as we said, emails or phones or the like.
It's kind of an olive branch thing, though. When you say, "Hey, here's an organised thing. Come and ask us questions." That's a lot different to our email and mobiles on the website.
We will note your invitation. Councillor Dickinson?
Yes, I would just like to comment that as councillors, we do have to abide by legislation as well. And as councillors, we are not able to always comment on things, because if it's to do with council matters, it is only the Shire President that has the authority to answer. So if we were to attend anything, or if anybody contacts us, we do have to be mindful of how we respond, whether it is appropriate or not for us to respond. So I think that needs to be kept in mind in all instances as well.
It is, and it has, and I've had 1, 2, 3, 4 councillors on, and the conversation has always been that there are certain things I might not be able to talk about. So if it is, then I'm just going to say, hey, I'm not allowed to talk about that because that's under review or whatever.
Okay, Councillor Christman, did you have...
Answer your question?
I was just going to state, local government as well when it comes to media.
Mr. Booth, have you got any more questions?
I would like actually to know what the ratio of Harvey residents has, maybe over sort of as 5-year gaps, what the ratio of the Harvey residents are in comparison to the ratio of the council staff. Whether we're finding that we're getting a much bigger office as we go, as we're going further, because it's tending to happen all around the world with all levels of government. And I'm just wondering, if we just have a look at ours and see how those numbers or that ratio has changed over time.
We'll have to take that one on notice.
That'd be great.
Yep. Councillor Dickinson?
I just have a question to clarify for that, please. When you say Harvey, do you mean the Harvey Shire, or do you mean the Harvey Town site? Because they are two different things.
No, the Harvey Shire.
And this council represents the whole Shire.
Yeah, well, sorry, the people who live in the Harvey Shire and then the people who run the Harvey Shire, that ratio.
Okay. Yep, I think we understand that.
Yeah, and what was it 5 years ago? What was it 10 years ago? Which way are we headed? Where are we headed?
Okay then, we'll take that one on notice. Thanks,
Yep.
Mr. Booth.
Beautiful, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Ferguson, follow up?
Thank you. You suggested that I turn one of my questions in relation to MOCA into a motion. I would like to turn the other question into a motion, if I may. It would read, in view of the cost to ratepayers of incoming visits by delegates from our sister city MOCA, and that an unknown number of staff, councillors and others may take part, I move that Council consider requiring that a budget for incoming visits be presented to Council in the same way that a budget is required for outgoing visits. That was, I had two similar questions. Yeah.
In the view cost consider placing a limit on the number. So now you are asking for
There were very similar questions,
Yes,
and
I
they both were
understand.
asking you to consider something. And the second one, you suggested I turn it into a motion rather than a request.
Correct.
So-
So what's this motion, the second motion, so the first one is to deal with limiting the number. This one is to, in view of the cost of the
In view,
ratepayers.
do you want me to read it
Yes,
out?
please, so the minute
In
taking.
view of the cost to ratepayers of incoming visits by delegates from our sister city, Mocha,
Yeah,
and that an unknown number of staff, councillors and others may take part, I move that council consider requiring that a budget for incoming visits be presented to council in the same way that a budget is required for outgoing visits.
so the motion is that, that council
Before it was just a
consider-
request.
Just got to get the wording
We
for
get
the
the
minute
wording.
taker.
Sorry.
I'm trying to keep up with.
Oh.
So,
I move that council consider a budget.
In view, I move that council consider requiring that a budget for incoming visits be presented to council in the same way that a budget is required for outgoing visits.
you want to? Governance, so we have a mover for that, Mrs Ferguson. Do I have a seconder for that one? Mrs McGregor, is there any discussion around this one? No, I'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? For, against? That makes 12, so it's lost. So that motion's lost, Mrs Ferguson.
Thank you. So that-
However, please note that we will, you know, if there is an intention for visits by Mocha delegation to come into, to visit the Shire of Harvey, that there will be a report that comes to council and the decision will be made, and it will reflect in the budget.
So the response to my question before is what stands.
Yes.
I would just like to comment in relation to expenses that when my husband retired after 37 years with the Education Department, staff, his colleagues, collected money to provide an afternoon tea and buy him a gift. The Education Department, I think, gave him a plastic medallion, such as kids get on sports day. In public service, I don't believe it's common for celebrations, farewell gifts to be provided out of the public purse. And in relation to the last speaker, about the lack of community consultation, I think the refusal to adequately inform the community about the Australian Community Precinct has been put on hold is an example of why the community feels that communication is inadequate. There was lots of publicity about where this should be and the master plan, and now the community is left to guess. Apart from a select few, the community is just left to guess what's happening, and that's why people feel it's not, communication is bad.
Thank you, Mrs Ferguson. All righty, are there any other questions? Mr Booth.
Mrs Lofthouse was talking about how much money was spent on alcohol. There's a heap of us that aren't drinkers. Maybe we can have all alcohol in the Shire actually put in as a line item so that we have an alcohol, so we don't have a food and alcohol input into your accounting, but actually just have it so that this time next year or whatever, be able to say, well, this is exactly the amount that was spent on alcohol.
Did you want to put that as a motion or a suggestion to council?
I'll put it as a motion.
Okay. We'll get
Let's
some.
move
Can you put some wording for that, please, Mr. Booth, for the minute taker?
Alcohol is a separate line item in all the accounting, so that it's very easy to identify.
While we're putting that together, Councillor Crispin?
Just a question in regards to that one. Obviously, invoices come through. However, there's going to be a lot of staffing to basically section off whether it be Coca-Cola, lemonade, water, you know, like the drink bottles which come in, you know, through the whole Shire, plus events. Like the amount of administration put towards that I'd probably say, if anything, 5 times the amount that's ever been spent on alcohol in a year.
So you wouldn't be
That's
able to...
part of your debate. So say, okay, that council consider including a specific line item for alcohol within the budget. Does that cover your motion, Mr. Booth? Do I have a seconder for that? Mrs. Lofthouse? Okay. Is there any debate around this one other than, yep, Councillor Crispin?
So I too don't very rarely drink, so but my debate is that the amount of administration would go towards this to be able to itemise it, I could imagine would just outweigh the benefit of it. That's all.
Councillor Coleman, question.
Just a question, Madam President. Rather than perhaps consider that as a motion at this point in time, would it be more prudent to perhaps spend a one-off working out how much alcohol was spent in the last 12 months to see whether it's worthwhile doing this on an ongoing basis rather than doing it every year? I mean, is that viable? Is it possible? I'm just trying to think of, the best solution to the issue going forward, and the issue going forward seems to be the amount that's spent on alcohol. So without knowing what that actually is initially, within reason, do we need to allocate it every year? So I guess in line with Councillor Crispin's statement about staff resources, is this a viable motion?
So are you happy for Mr. Winter to make some comment on how difficult or not difficult this would be to achieve?
It would just be alcohol. It's not like you don't want to know how much Coke, how much this,
we
how much that.
understand the motion,
Yeah.
Mr. Booth. We're just getting some guidance.
It would be very problematic to identify the total level of alcohol that is purchased within the Shire, considering that we currently report on service levels. If it's an event, then we need to have those costs go to an event. And then you want to also pull small amounts out of, for example, an IGA purchase and identify that separately. It would be very problematic. And you're right, it would take a lot of time.
Okay, we've got this motion in front of us though. Is there any further discussion for or against? Councillor Cabone.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll speak against this motion, and I've sat through this tonight and we've been portrayed here as a bunch of drinking, luxury living, fat cats, feathering our own nest, wearing silk ties and silk scarves tonight. And quite frankly, I've had it up to here, and it's actually tonight why I realise why I drink alcohol and probably will drink copious amounts when I get home. What's the difference whether we have a line item for $1,000 of alcohol in the budget or $1,000 of Coke or potato chips or peanuts? What next? And in fact, I'll foreshadow a motion that we continue to have an entertainment budget in the budget at the discretion of the CEO and the President. This is ridiculous. This is stupid. We're required as councillors to entertain. We have visits from, we've had one visit from Mocha. We've been there, we reciprocated to do the right thing when we went there. No one went to any extravagance. Our CEO and Shire President are required to entertain politicians, staff, other councils, and that. What are we going to be? A bunch of tight asses? What, when they come here, cook up a sponge cake or something that we bring from home? I mean, this is just ridiculous. I've sat through this for an hour tonight, and it's just absolute crap. What we do here is very prudent, and Councillor Holly was spot on earlier when he brought it up. We shouldn't have to put up with this. We do our best here. As Councillor Boylan said, we've all got jobs. I actually lose money to come here and sit here at this desk. I lose money. And the money that I get as a sitting fee, I get taxed on at the top rate because it goes on top of my income. So, you know, don't come here preaching to me about how we waste money. Well, we do the best we can because we pay rates too. We all pay rates around this table. So it's a dumb motion and I vote against it.
All righty. Councillor Coleman?
I'll speak against the motion.
Yes.
I'm a soda water girl, so I would be lucky if I had a glass of alcohol once a month. And I don't, I'm not sure why the alcohol has been singled out, because the amount, when I look back even on the figures from tonight, the amount is negligible. It would cost far more to do the work than it would be to do to get the alcohol. And the problem that I foresee with this is that all of our staff here are very aware, particularly our CEO is very aware of occupational health and safety and drink driving. So we can't afford to have much to drink anyway, even if I did. And I'll be the first to say I have an occasional quarter of a glass of, you know, bubbly or something. But none of us can drink and drive, especially after sitting here for 7 or 8 hours today. So I think that the cost of doing this outweighs the good that might have come from the original intention. So I have to speak against the motion.
Anyone for? Anyone against?
I speak against. Yeah, I just speak against the motion. I think it's really easy to come here to a bunch of elected people who have been elected by the Shire of Harvey, the ratepayers, and throw rocks. I'd invite you all to put your name up and try and be a councillor and spend the time that we do.
Against? Councillor Dickinson?
I speak against the motion because I believe that the impost that it will put onto staff is going to be more than what it would identify it could possibly save. But also I believe that all councillors here act very responsibly. We are all very conscious of the drinking and driving, and so we do not consume copious amounts of alcohol, I don't believe. I think that we have all put our hands up to represent our communities. One way we represent our communities is being a councillor, but we also all volunteer. Some of us work, some of us don't work. The ones that don't work are more available to represent their shire by attending more meetings and being more available for community. And I think that it is very disappointing that we get overly scrutinised, but I do respect the right that everybody has to ask the questions and to come here and ask the questions, or to send people along to ask questions on their behalf. But we are all contactable, and I think that, you know, this has not been identified to me as a councillor in the consultation or the meetings that I have continually with the public. And I'm not just talking about Harvey. I attend and visit all areas of the Shire. So I'm not just saying, you know, what is possibly fed into a Facebook post that not everybody has access to. But I commend you for putting it up, but I don't think it is appropriate, so I will be voting against it.
Any speaker for? Speaker against? Okay, we will put Mr Booth's motion to the vote. All those in favour? No.
Just because I felt as if I was attacked wrongly when a few councillors suggesting that I was saying that you were a bunch of stewards, which you're not.
Okay, thank you.
I actually believe that you probably stand
where the old windmill starts and people start complaining. That's where it's coming from.
Okay, Mr Booth. I apologise if you did, but I will put your motion to the vote now. All those in favour? 2, against? The motion is lost. We deal with. Councillor Carboni, did you wish to? Okay.
This is what I've got here, Councillor.
If you have a look at.
All right, I'll just put that quick back so the second
I'll ask for a seconder in a moment. Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Boylan. Councillor Carboni, did you wish to speak
Yes,
quietly and quickly to this one?
I shall. I think it's only prudent that we continue to have an entertainment allowance in the budget, as it says, to be used at your discretion. And like many of us councillors here tonight, I've taken offence at the tone of the questioning tonight by a lot of the questions, and I would suggest to those people who've asked multiple questions tonight that there's an election in October and they're quite welcome to put their hand up.
Councillor Boylan as a seconder.
No, I'm right. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Coleman, question, yes?
Madam President, I would like to see either an amount and as in a maximum amount for this motion, rather than an open amount in keeping with sentiment. Perhaps if that. Yeah,
I appreciate where you're coming from, Councillor Coleman, but this will now come to, if it gets up, will come to council at the next meeting, and we can deal with that there. Yeah, thank you. So it will come next month. Okay, Councillor Carboni, did you wish to? You said enough. Thank you. We'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Against? None. Carried. Thank you. Are there any other questions, councillors, members of the public? No. I do thank you for your participation today. I do thank staff for following up on all of the questions. There are a few that we'll take on notice, and we will get that information. Councillor Crispin, yes?
Just a quick question. Is it possible to have some sort of templated questions created? So in other words, we had a lot of questions here where we didn't have EFTs and everything like that. Is there a way of having a template set up that we can give to any community member which is going to attend one of these, where they can put in their question, and then it could have the possibility to say, well, if it's a budget, you itemise EFT, and that way they're not going to come here not understanding what the question really is.
Perhaps we'll take that on.
Yes, we will take that on notice. I mean, we do ask for complex questions to be provided prior to the meeting, but yes, having those reference numbers makes it easier for the follow-up, so yeah.
Okay, travel home safely. Mrs Lofthouse, very quickly. Do you want to turn your microphone on? Yeah, that's
The
it.
CEO claims we only paid a rise of 6%, but she's not aware of all. You're only aware of one property, I believe. You're not aware of all our properties.
Yes, it was multiple properties, and I had our rates coordinator check the information to make sure that the rate rise was correct, and as detailed, it was 6.3% on your previous year's rates. So as mentioned, there's the ability to contact our rates coordinator to cross-reference your figures.
Well, what we actually paid by cheque was actually a rise of 10.36%. Our bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs Lofthouse. Thank you for everyone's participation. As I said, safe travels home, and I declare the annual